All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Watch This with RickRamos. As always, this is your host, film buddy, good friend, Mr. RickRamos. This week, as you can hear, the Jameson pour, and yes, for you purists out there, that is soda that I'm adding to it because I have not been drinking in quite some time, so this is necessary. No soy animal. I can't hang like I used to, and I don't pretend that I can. I do what I gotta do to get it down and to feel what I want to feel. This week, my co-host Mr. Chavez is unavailable, taking some time for himself, doing some things that need to be done, and I commend him for making time. I commend him for making time to do just that. So many of us lose the perception that is necessary to keep us sane. I take this first drink for him. Mr. Chavez, I hope you're well right now. Oh, shit. So, what do we want to talk about? I know this is coming to you guys late. I know that I'm slipping a little bit, but it's been a long week. It's been a long weekend, actually. I'm looking for work. I'm closing in on a job, which I hope will be the last that I will need for quite some time. As you all know, this is a labor of love. This is what we do because there is a magic to it, because there is a desire to connect with people, to put our hearts and souls out there for people to understand that there's passion in this world, that there is a sense of belonging, a film community, people who may have difficulty connecting with other people one-on-one, but for some reason there's this understanding, there's this knowledge in that a love of cinema, a love of storytelling brings us together and makes it a hell of a lot easier to relate to one another. So I drink this to you. Took a big step this week. Drove out to Vegas with my father, the old man, and we bought ourselves a dog, got ourselves a bull terrier, a stubborn breed, if there ever was one. Somewhat shark-headed, great white shark-headed animal, but I gotta tell you, I've had him for 2 days, and even though he's pissing and shitting all over my house, I feel like there's a connection that I've been needing, I really needed to have something that I cared about, and I think I recommend it to you people out there who maybe you can't connect with individuals, maybe you can't connect with somebody else, but find something that you can do that with, that you can love, that does love you back. And I know it's sounding all preachy and ridiculous, but the truth is that I've had this dog for 2 days. I'm having a hard time staying awake because of the constant yipping and cleaning up. And if you know Phoenix is not the city that you want to buy a dog in the middle of summer. House training this little fucker has been a nightmare because he, like any rational human being, does not like to go out in the heat. I can't blame him. He's only 3 months old and he's got a brain the size of an ice cube that I'm drinking right now, but even he knows that. Well, here's one for him. But what do I want to talk about today? We started off this month with an examination of the Indiana Jones films, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, Last Crusade, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and this new film that is in theaters right now, The Dial of Destiny. And I know a lot of people are pissed off and a lot of people don't like it. They have certain judgments that they're basing on internet troll activity. And let me tell you something about that. Not that I'm some kind of authority, not that I'm some kind of person that you should hold as the end-all be-all of cinema knowledge and understanding. But what I can say is you can't leave it up to the know-it-alls. You can't leave it up to the trolls. You can't leave it up for the bastards who want to go out there and slam something for the sake of slamming it. Now, that I'm saying that with the full knowledge and understanding that there have been numerous times on this show that I have slammed and shit on somebody's work. I stand by that. That's my opinion. But I went and saw the movie first, and I experienced it, and I was either thrilled and excited, or I was, disappointed and disgusted, or I was just left feeling empty, as if nothing had happened, as if there was no connection, which is really the worst kind of feeling to come out of a movie. Now, with Dial of Destiny, I had none of that. I had a good time. I experienced, it was like it was hanging out with an old friend, and seeing how it's been, I don't know, almost 15 years, probably 15 years since Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which, upon reflection and going back for last week's episode, I enjoyed a lot more than I had originally enjoyed the film. But it made me wonder about certain things. It certainly made me wonder, as every episode that we do makes us try to get an idea of what the next episode is going to be, what we're going to bring to that, what we're going to do with it, what we're going to say, what we're going to feel, what kind of emotions, what kind of soapbox are we going to stand on to champion or to I don't want to say bring down, because that's not what we do. A full and conscious and intellectual understanding of what we're watching on the big screen. With that in mind, I decided that I wanted to take a look at more of Harrison Ford's dramatic work. Now, you can definitely say that there's elements of drama in Blade Runner, and you could say that there's elements of drama in the Raiders films, or in the Jack Ryan films, the two films that he did, Clear and Present Danger, and as old age has taken its toll. I don't recall what the second film was. Either way, I wanted to ignore the action films, Air Force One, some of the other you can make an argument for Harrison Ford in a number of different films. What you can say about Ford, I think, which is what you can say about few other stars, is that he is both a movie star and a damn fine actor. And what he does is not on the level of a Pacino or a De Niro or a Hoffman or a Robert Duvall, Gene Hackman. No, it's something completely different. There's an everyman quality to it that makes it relatable, and I think that makes the films that he does and the performances that he gives a little bit more realistic and relatable. So when you watch Indiana Jones being dragged underneath a truck, or you see this guy, get the shit beat out of him, not once, twice, three, four times in four different films. Just take a fucking ridiculous beating that would destroy most men. He continues to come back, and I would be remiss if I didn't say that I kind of see myself in that, because he's a little bit more realistic. He's not a muscled up, oiled Superman. He's not Schwarzenegger. He's not Stallone. He's not even Bruce Willis in the quips. And at some point, if I can convince Mr. Chavez, we will definitely take a look at the Die Hard films and progress and witness and examine the progression of the everyman in a situation nobody wants to be in, slowly evolving into some kind of superhuman that by the end of the series, in one of the worst endings of a series that, not intentional, but, Bruce Willis's health issues, determined by Bruce Willis's health issues. Die Hard, Live Free or Die, no, Die Hard, A Good Day to Die Hard is the last time that we'll see the police officer John McClane, and that's fucking sad. As a cinema goer, as a fan of action films, it's a hard goodbye to somebody that you've loved for 30 plus years. That being said, let's go into 20 some odd years, 20 plus years. No, fucking A, 30 plus years. The original Die Hard was 88, 87, 88, and here we are in 2023. Wow. It really does make you think. So, no, but guys like that, Bruce Willis started off a little bit relatable. Harrison Ford was relatable, stayed relatable. And as he grew older and older, he became not the Superman that Stallone would want you to believe he is in the Expendable films, and Schwarzenegger would have you believe he is in whatever action films that he's done, including The Last Stand from a number of years ago, which I really enjoyed. But here you have somebody who is really diverse, who's willing to take chances, who's willing to put something out there that is not typical of what he does. So let's take a look at two films. In 1985, Harrison Ford teamed up with an Australian director who was famous for a film called Walkabout, I think. I believe it was Walkabout. A gentleman by the name of Peter Weir. And Weir would go on to direct a number of really interesting films, including Dead Poets Society, The Truman Show, Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World. But he didn't do Walkabout. He did Picnic at Hanging Rock. That's right. He would do Gallipoli, which made a star of Mel Gibson in 1981. But it was Witness, his first film in America, that really got things moving, that really did something to his career. He would also do Dead Poets Society, Fearless, which is a film that I want to eventually talk about, and The Truman Show in 1998, which are, all films that really... The Truman Show would definitely be an interesting film to go through and talk about and see how prophetic that was. But in 1985, he directed Harrison Ford to his only Academy Award nomination as Philadelphia detective John Book. And Book was he was a good cop, and he's a tough cop. He's a hard, no bullshit type of guy. You don't get... What I really love about this film is that there's an economy to the film. You don't get the typical he's drunk all the time. You don't have that shot of him going to an empty apartment, opening the refrigerator and there's one can of Coors Light in there. You don't get that. You don't get that obvious kind of lonely depiction of the one good cop who's struggling to do the right thing in a corrupt system. What Weir from an original screenplay by from a screenplay by Earl Wallace and William Cayley, and that was from an earlier story. But they do a very interesting move that I don't see a lot of other films do. They give you a look into Book's life by profiling it through his sister, his put-upon sister, who a divorced mother of two, I believe, a divorced mother of two, who Book is judgmental of for being divorced and for having a man staying over when her kids are there. That's, I don't know exactly when this film is set. It has a 1970s quality to it, but it could very well be in the 1980s. I think it was a present I think it was set in the present. So, yeah, April of 1984. I pull a lot of shit off Wikipedia. You know, Wikipedia and IMDb are good resources as far as being able to fill in the holes, but what it really comes down to is the emotion and the power of the imagery. And what I love about what Weir does in this film is he allows the story to unfold in front of us. He really does just parcel it out to us slowly in a way that few directors would have the courage to do today, when everything is so in your face and slam bam, put it out there, see what happens. That's not what happens in this film. This is a much different film in that respect. It's a slow burn. It's almost like it doesn't have the darkness of a 40s and 50s film noir, but it definitely has the pacing and the attitude. No, not the attitude. The attitude, that's not right. The pacing, the storyline, and something opposite of noir. It has a certain nobility. He's a good cop. He's a good cop going up against the corrupt system, or at least his corrupt system. In these cases, in a noir, it's usually the other way around. It's usually the system is good, the cop is maybe bad. The cop gets drawn into some kind of shit situation because he's tired of being on the low rung all the time. He wants to make a quick buck. What he wants is to be rewarded once, at least once, for his good work. So, this movie digs into that, and it does so in a really wonderful way. It's a culture clash story of a big city cop integrating himself into the lives of an Amish community in Pennsylvania. I don't know too much about the Amish. I know what most of you know. I know the black suits, the suspenders, the wide brimmed, flat topped hats, and the horse and buggy carriages. This is what I know. This is, but it for whatever my prejudices concerning religion are, and they are varied in many. Although not specific to any one religion. It's more of a contempt for everything. I'm of the Christopher Hitchens school. God rest that drunk British bastard soul. That's for him. Oh, calm down, killer. That's Killer. Barking up a storm and farting up a storm, apparently. His name is not Killer. His name is actually Jerry Lee, the Killer. So, he's my baby. My little boy. God, I'm turning into that fucking guy. Well, whatever. I still love movies, so let's get back to that. This film, 1984. John Book. Single. Workaholic cop. You're given an understanding of who he is through a conversation that he has with an Amish mother who he's protecting. I'll get into that in a minute. But the sister, John Book's sister, Patti LuPone, tells her all these stories about him. It's and it's a natural thing, and it really is. It plays out beautifully because you can see you get the sense of the frustration and the bitterness that exists between a brother and a sister. And Patti LuPone, the New York stage actress who occasionally makes appearances in movies, especially in the late 80s and early 90s. She plays this sister who maybe has been dealt a few bad hands probably, and is upset, angry, and in a way what's the word? Jealous of her brother, his life and the way he lives, the freedom that he has. Being a single mother isn't an easy fucking gig, and she's doing it. But she tells the Kelly McGillis character, Kelly McGillis from Top Gun, an Amish mother, an Amish single mother, who's an Amish widowed single mother. Let me say that. Whose son has witnessed a murder and book is protecting. She tells this woman all about her brother John Book, letting her in on his secrets, on her psychological analysis, in a way that only a brother and sister can really do, because they know each other in a very personal manner. I was going to say intimate, and that would lead into a whole other fucking nightmare of descriptive disgust. But no. What you find is this relationship, a loving brother and sister. I mean, he goes to her. He goes to her for help. Anyway, Lipone tells Rachel, the Kelly McGillis character, that her brother likes being a cop because he likes having control. He likes being the one in charge. You know, she comments on it, and, you know, she pours. Basically, you can hear this as Kelly McGillis' character Rachel tells Harrison Ford's character John Book, "This is what your sister has told me about you," which is basically, watch out. But more along the lines of, I have somebody who is neutral that I can pour this shit out to because my brother drives me fucking crazy. Who doesn't know what that's about? So, that's where we're at in this story. That's what we're dealing with. The film starts in Amish community at a wake or a funeral. I'm not exactly sure how they conduct their services. I'm going wake because I'm Catholic, or at least was until I reached the age of not giving a fuck. George Carlin called it the age of reason. I call it the age of not giving a fuck anymore. The Kelly McGillis character, Rachel, is mourning the loss of her husband. It's never really explained how the husband has died. Maybe it was an illness, maybe it was an accident, but the husband has passed. And she and her young son, played by a wonderful Lukas Haas in this film, just adorable and sweet and very natural. It was hard to imagine because I don't think he could have been more than about 8 or 9 years old at the time, and he has such a wondrous quality to him. He has such a sweetness to him that you don't see in a lot. Most child actors, or at least the ones that I auditioned with and had to see, they're very show me. They're very obvious. They're very put on. There's not a lot of subtlety there, but this seems like a real kid. This just seems like something that's right. He's a joy in this movie, and because of the quality and the level of his performance, it makes everything else seem very natural. It sells the rest of the film very, very powerfully. This is a kid. His mother and he decide to visit her sister in, I believe, Baltimore. Maybe there's another Amish community in Baltimore. Maybe her sister's left the sect. I don't know too much about the religion, so I can't really comment on that. But they're in a bus station. They're in a train station in Pennsylvania, and the little boy. There's a couple of really cool scenes that Peter Weir sets up, and this I think this is why his directing is so powerful and beautifully handled. Is that he tells the story, but is willing to not willing, but he wants you to know the wonders that this little kid is experiencing. He wants to, there's a moment where he's fat, and it builds. There's a moment in the beginning of their layover. The bus that they're supposed to get on the train that's supposed to get on is 3 hours late, so they have to stay in this train terminal. He's fascinated by a water fountain. He's like, Mommy, what is that? What is that? And he slowly makes his way over to it. And he just plays with it, and it seems very natural, like a child would. And I can just imagine that Peter Weir would say, what would you think of that? How would you imagine that? And I don't know. He gets into directing actors and directing child actors, which is a whole other, just incredibly nuanced kind of thing that you can do as a director, as a creator. So, at one point, he sees what looks like a Hasidic Jew from behind. The hat, the coat, he thinks he's seeing one of his own. And he slowly makes his way over there, and then he sees, as he turns around, he's like, whoa, this is not one of mine. This is not like my grandfather. This is not like my cousins. This is not anybody that I can recognize. And the kind of wariness, I wouldn't call it fear, I wouldn't call it sadness, I would call it, there was a certain wariness, like carefulness of seeing that. And he slowly walks back, and he pulls back, and he's just like, oh, okay, wait a minute, what is this, what's going on? And you read it on his face, and it seems very authentic, it feels very good. It's a good moment. I'm just going on because I'm drinking, so. And Ibrahim is not here to add his insights. And I got to tell you, without that cocksucker here, this is a little bit more difficult because, it's so strange. I did the show by myself for probably 20 or 30 episodes, and every time he needs to take some time and I have to do something of my own, I'm fearful, I'm afraid, and I don't know what the fuck I'm going to say. I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do. I just, am I going to be able to do this? And it always comes together, but, drink helps. So, that being said, drink helps. God bless the Jameson family, wherever they may be. So, Lukas Haas's character, Samuel, little boy named Samuel, he goes into a restroom, and he sees a man at the sink. He's just, he's curious, like a puppy dog almost. He's just, he's looking at everything around him, and he's absorbing all of it, and he's taking it all in, and he's feeling it. And he sees this man, and he just, he goes into one of the stalls, and he hears two men come in, and he starts looking. And this is really a tense, powerful moment in the film, and Weir really knows how to use that trope of a child in danger. Because you get the sense that some shit is going down. I mean, the fucking movie is called Witness, so it's like, you're kind of led. And if I remember correctly, all of the ads and the trailers really kind of pushed towards that, so there was no real surprises. I remember and this is one of the cool things about having not seen a movie, because I had never seen this movie until tonight. It's been sitting on the shelf for about 3 or 4 years, after I picked it up on Blu-ray, but I don't even remember if I had it on DVD and never watched it and then traded that in, because that's something that I fucking do. My sickness is that great. But I remember in the trailer, Lukas Haas, the little boy, looking through the slit in the bathroom stall door. And you see Danny Glover spin and attack. And this is years before Roger Murtaugh. This is years before Danny Glover would become the star that he was. I mean, he was still a journeyman actor at this point. He's not even given his own title card. It's also starring, So, but he has a presence. He has a formidable presence. And you see that. And then there's that moment where he checks the stalls and he's going through and he's looking, and that little kid is in danger. That little kid is about to die. And just through sheer luck, he's able to lock that door and crawl into the other stall, pulling his hat through at the last minute, which unfortunately is something that kind of hit me as an Indiana Jones moment. I kind of like smirked, but that was definitely not the intention, or I assume that was definitely not Weir's intention. But there's a tension there. There's a moment of fear. There's a level of, oh my God, what the fuck is about to happen? Are they going to really kill a kid? Yeah. That's the amazing thing about a good movie. They're not going to kill that kid. Number one, you don't kill a kid. Number two, you're not going to kill a kid in the first 20 minutes of the movie. You need that kid. So, the murder occurs. The kid escapes just by luck. Just luck. That's it. That's all he has going for him. And then we're introduced to John Book, Harrison Ford. Late 30s, maybe early 40s. Cop. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Pittsburgh, Philadelphia. I'm not sure exactly where they're at that point, but it looks like a real shithole. I mean, it looks like when they're driving, rousting people, trying to get a figure on who they can put this shit on, because all the kid can tell him is he was black and he was tall, large man. So you have the scene where they roust a bar, pull out who they think it might be. The kid just looks in utter amazement, and Haas has this great just look of wide-eyed wonderment, fear, and just he's never seen anything in this world. There's such an honesty to his performance that I love his performance in this film. I think he's just magnificent. One of the best child actors that I've seen in a movie like this. You get that moment. He just looks, no. Then they put him in the lineup, no. Then Ford is doing the obligatory, just going through the faces in the book. That scene that you've seen so many times in movies where it's like, okay, let's go through the book. They got 6 books filled with 500 faces. Shit starts blending into it. So how the fuck do you expect anybody to ID somebody when you're putting them through that? Ford gets a phone call. He takes it. The kid starts wandering. And then he sees in a trophy case a newspaper clipping with Danny Glover's character McPhee. and the moment of realization, that just awesome moment of realizing as a child without even understanding what it is that they're dealing with. That realization. I mean, it's a great moment. I loved that. It was fabulous. And then you have the the bad guys finding out that the good guys are after them, that the good guys know who they are, that this kid has to be gotten rid of, and that John Book needs to be gotten rid of because he's the thing that's standing in the way. And that's where the movie becomes a love story. And it becomes a culture clash love story of John Book, Philadelphia police officer, being hidden in the Amish community because he takes a bullet during an earlier confrontation with Danny Glover's McPhee. He takes a bullet to the gut. And all kinds of shit can happen at that point where you're just wondering what the fuck. I mean, they go through 2 days and 2 nights of just delirious, just pain, suffering, fever, seeing shit, and Ford plays it beautifully. It's a great little scene where Kelly McGillis nurses him with teas and a poultice that a local, I think, veterinarian has given him. I'm just assuming veterinarian. I don't really fucking know. But he comes back to life, and he needs to hide there, and he needs to figure out what the hell he's going to do. He needs to figure out that plan of how he's going to bring people down, because he knows that the only person that he is told about the identity of the murderer was his chief. And now they've come after him, so now he knows there's no one that can be trusted. I have to look out for my partner as best I can, but there's nothing. This whole thing is based. It's a cop killing in a transit bathroom. And the cops kill an undercover cop. I didn't mention that, so it's a big deal. It's a big fucking deal. But those are all just plot points, and they're not important in the sense of where are we going with it. That's in a weird way, that's the MacGuffin. That's the what gets him to the Amish community. What forces Harrison Ford so out of place, but so seemingly right for this community in some ways. And maybe that's just my perception of him being, very similar in look to these people, or at least the young people. And then the gradual realization that this is going to be a tougher situation. I have no one to turn to. I have no one that I could look to. In that way, it's very noir-esque, where nobody can be trusted. Everybody's a thief, a liar, a scoundrel. There is nobody that I can trust. There's nowhere that I can go where I have faith in what's in front of me. So he blends into this community. He learns their ways. He helps them as best he can. There's a culture clash, but it's not pronounced. I think if this film were being made today, it would be much more pronounced. There would be a lot of fighting. There would be a lot of struggle. Even the moment where Ford's character, John Book, goes against their norms, when they're when the Amish are confronted by the townies. They're mocked and ridiculed and made fun of. And it's interesting the way Weir does it, because he builds to it with a scene where these people ride into town in their buggies, and all of the tourists want to look at them like you would an animal, like you would on a wild animal park, and they want to take pictures with them, and they want to, it's really a commentary on how horrible and ignorant people are. To look at other people like that, like let's go look at the tigers in the cage behind behind the moat. There's a scene that they build up to where a townsperson, a young kid, probably in his mid-20s, gets in the face of Alexander Gutenov's character, Eli, he's really good. I mean, Gutenov was great in The Money Pit. He was great in Die Hard. He was good in a lot of things. He always brought a certain power to his performances. Maybe it was the look. I don't know what it was. But this town kid mocks him, smears his face with ice cream. Now, to you and me, or at least to me and many of you, this would be cause to just haul off and beat the shit out of somebody, but it's not the way of their people. And the norm is to just allow it and accept it and move on. And this is what's great about Ford. Ford doesn't... When I had seen that scene before in clips, I thought he was angry at the situation. No. If it had been just a situation, he might have let it go because it was their people. It was who they are, and it was what they're willing to take. He doesn't do that. He walks out of his carriage. He steps out of his carriage with the father of Kelly McGillis' character. He walks over with this loopy kind of dazed look on his face. And when the kid starts with him, Ford just proceeds to beat the shit out of him and then knock the shit out of his friend. But that scene comes out of an earlier scene, a phone conversation, where Ford finds out that his partner, a wonderful actor that I had seen in a number of other things. I'd seen him in Another 48 Hours. I had seen him in Moneyball. But I also saw him in Life, and he was the trustee in Life. His name was Brent Jennings. I was actually out on an audition one time, and he was there, and I just got fucking like, wow, I've seen that guy. I didn't know his name at the moment, but I knew who he was. So that's Hollywood, baby. That's what you see. People who were in major motion pictures with Eddie Murphy and Harrison Ford and are on auditions for fucking Hemorrhoid Cream. I don't know what the fuck we were going in for, but it was ridiculous. I know that. So that's why I don't do that shit anymore. You can only beat your head up against that wall so many times. Hey, I got me a regular 9 to 5 and I got my dog. I don't need much else. So Ford beats the shit out of this guy. And it's because his partner, Brent Jennings, his partner, Sergeant Elton Carter, great name, has been killed in the line of duty. And it's an obvious setup by his fellow police officers. Now, Book knows they're coming. Book knows that it'll be there. And it becomes just the real right tension moment. I mean, and Peter Weir doesn't overwhelm you. He doesn't beat the shit out of you with a certain level of violence. No, what he does is something a lot more interesting. What he does is he builds the relationship between Ford and this community, and particularly Kelly McGillis' Rachel and Lukas Haas' Samuel. And you really want him to be there to save this family, to protect them, to make sure that nothing happens to them. And it's a beautiful. It lends so much more to that chase. So when Danny Glover, when McPhee, when Fergie, Sergeant Fergie, the other sergeant, and the chief who has set Ford up, who is dirty as all shit, Ford's ex-partner years back. I thought that was a little bit obvious, but, it's all right for what it was. They come to hunt him down. And Ford uses his knowledge and his understanding of the barn, the community, how they live, to get on top. I'll say this much. I think Harrison Ford was well deserving of the Best Actor in that, and because what he does is so everyday, seamless. It's not heavy-handed. It's not in your face. It's not De Niro. It's not Pacino. It's not Hoffman. It's not over. And what those guys do is incredible. And I would still take them over Harrison Ford any day. But there is something to be said about the power of this kind of I guess it's a kind of meditative acting where it's slow. It occurs as you imagine it would occur. That's that film. The following year, Ford and Peter Weir would team up again for a film called The Mosquito Coast, which I think is one of the few times that Harrison Ford has played cantankerous. He has played angry. He's played difficult to get along with. But it's a rare film where he plays a completely, I wouldn't say the word despicable, but someone that you would say, I can't deal with this person anymore. I don't want to be with this person. I can't, fuck this guy. And that's the character he plays in The Mosquito Coast, which is it's a film directed by Peter Weir once again, and it was written by it's taken from a novel. It was optioned from Theroux. James Theroux, was that the name? Paul Theroux. And Paul Theroux is, I've never read his stuff, so I can't really speak to what he was or what he did, but Paul Theroux. The screenplay was by one of my favorites, Paul Schrader, who would find it, break the back of the book, and deliver a screenplay that looked into the ego of man. And what I like about this film, of the two films, Witness is the better film. Witness is the more exciting, more captivating, more narratively exciting film. But this is an incredible character study of a family, basically, though. River Phoenix is the oldest son. Helen Mirren as the wife, although she's given very little to do. It's roles for women. What the fuck are you gonna do? You write better roles. This is a film about a father who's disgusted and who was tired and has become disgusted by the state of American life. The crassness of it, the need for the crassness, the need for material wealth. He's a man of science, and he's a man of inventiveness. He's an inventor, basically. I think they said something like 6 patents and 9 pending, something like that. But with the belief that it should all be free to the people, and they should live in the wealth. Kind of a Tesla type of attitude, I guess, or at least what I've been told about Tesla. Maybe I'm wrong. I can't be sure. But this man is an idealistic god to his family, promising. And I think what works about it is that he is promising a future for his family that he believes in, but also B, he is able to expound on because it's not a reality. When he puts it into reality is where it becomes difficult. And he does this by leaving modern American society. He works for a farmer, developing and building, not developing, but building and repairing technology that is needed. Refrigeration, cooling units, all kinds of things that would assist in maximizing crops. But he sees himself as against that mentality of selling out to corporate America, selling out to the power of the dollar, viewing America as this lost paradise, as this paradise that no longer, as this fake paradise that no longer is able to achieve the goals that it once held dear. The character he plays is named Allie Fox. His wife is Margot, who he refers to as mother, already a problem for me. River Phoenix is his oldest son, Charlie. And he decides to say fuck it to America. Fuck it to the job. Fuck it to blue-collar life. The idea of what America once was is now dead. So let me go into the primitive world. And he decides to move his family to somewhere in South America. I'm not sure if they really say where exactly it is. It's near Panama. But it's a place referred to as the Mosquito Coast, hence the title of the film, The Mosquito Coast. And you see this man creating this paradise, and it's daunting. It's scary at first because there was nothing there. He buys this piece of land that has been told to him is a small village. A little village, motherfucker, a little village. It's for Ibrahim. By way of Mr. Sonny Boy. Anyway, a little village, motherfucker. There's nothing but ramshackle shacks, just beat up. It's not anything. But he never lets on to disappointment. He never lets on to the idea that this is not what we intended it to be. And he moves in and begins to conquer the jungle, which is, I think it's the correct terminology for a lot of men of this belief system, of this attitude, the conquering of the jungle, the taking of Mother Nature, and shaping it to our desire. It's such a strange thing to have such an idealistic character who believes in what I thought by his disgust with the American capitalistic society, that there was a sense of environmentalism there, but there wasn't. It's a matter of capturing the world and bending it to his desires. So he builds these homes. He builds homes for the people around him, and he considers himself egotistically as a god almost, or at least that's the impression that I got. That it's never very explicit. He seems to have this noble sense of helping people, and he gathers these people to build this beautiful village and society where it's almost socialist, communistic in the sense of everybody working together and sharing in the wealth, and there's a nobility to it, because I honestly believe that he believes that at first. And yet, with anybody who creates, an inventor, a person who brings to it a certain knowledge, there is an ego that is there that says, yes, we're all equal, but some of us are more equal. I think that's the Animal Farm aspect of it. Some of us are a little bit more equal because we bring a level of intelligence and intellect to it that shapes exactly what it is that we're doing. And that's the troubling aspect of this movie, is that it's not a troubling aspect of the movie. The movie does very well in depicting the ego of this man, the slow transformation and destruction of his dream because of his inability to control his emotions, to control his psychological attachment to the situation. And Ford plays that brilliantly, and that's why it's kind of an outlier in his filmography, because so much of what he does is the hero. So much of what he does is Han Solo, Indiana Jones, Jack Ryan. There is a certain level of good, hardworking, focused, and intelligent, noble men. And it's seemingly what this man is, until you realize that the ego and the contempt for the ignorance around him. I'm not saying the stupidity, and I'm not saying... what I'm talking about is people and their beliefs and their ideas and whatever it is that leads them on their own paths. The fact that they are in any way different from his, there is a palpable understanding that he cannot buy into this. He cannot accept this. He will not accept this. And after great successes and heart-wrenching failures, he finds himself abusing his workers and his people, his family, but also abusing and polluting the jungle when he's overcome by what I believe were mercenary guerrilla soldiers that are in the jungle. See, there's a certain type of idealistic male ego in this film. There is no doubt that the character that Allie Fox, the character that Harrison Ford plays, is an intelligent and he's an incredibly intelligent, focused, and caring man. But there's also something there when you're willing to ignore the attitudes and beliefs of the people that you're working with. That's when it becomes a scary thing. That's when the megalomania steps in. And what I can say about Ford in this movie is that he doesn't shy away from it. He doesn't try to soften it. He doesn't try to make this a nicer, better man. There is no happy ending here. That's why it's very different from Witness. Witness is narrative and character driven. This is a character study. This is the madness of somebody who is far too intelligent for his own good. A genius level intelligence that forces his hand and makes it impossible for him to take into consideration the wants and needs of his family. Maybe I'm being a little bit too judgmental about Helen Mirren, because I said earlier in the podcast, in the brief intro to this thing, or the brief description of the story, the character doesn't have a lot to do, but she does. Her presence, she does a lot with very little. She is a good-hearted woman in love with a good-timing man. Maybe not a good-timing man, but a man who is so myopic, so unable to see the bigger picture that it's troubling. that's one of the things that I really dig about this, is that it's there. It's whether it's River Phoenix as the oldest son, or there's another kid, Jadrian Steele as the younger brother. There are twin younger sisters, and there were a whole other group of characters in the film, including like a Man Friday named Mr. Hattie, Conrad Roberts, Mr. Hattie. There's a good interaction between him, but it's a real testament to how Ford's character becomes very jealous, angry, accusatory, I guess, also just unwilling to accept the help and advice from other people, because who could know more than he does? Especially if, regardless of whether he says it or not, the primitives, which are all the people helping him. The black workers from the forest, the Latin city people that are there, the blacks and the Latins that come to help, or whatever. That's, it's a white god. Father, he's referred to, which, God, I take fucking... I know it did occur, but it's real fucking hard to watch that shit. Any man who is not your father being referred to as father because of a certain level of respect that takes it to a level of idolatry, I really have a fucking problem with. Anyway, the movie looks at Harrison Ford's character, looks at this man, watches his destruction, watches him destroy everything that is his family, and it's troubling, and it's difficult. But that's what makes Weir a great director, is that he's not interested in shying away. Weir is a great director, and Harrison Ford is great in not pushing away from that. He has a certain charm because he's Harrison Ford, but I think this is the ugliest he's ever looked in films, where you look at him and you think, this man is so caught up in his own genius that he can't, you don't like him. And for a lot of people watching movies, it's difficult to have a protagonist, the person on the poster, the fucking largest name in the credits. It's difficult to have a movie about that person and you're not supposed to like him. For me, I commend Harrison Ford for not making the character cute, that for not trying to get us to forgive him. He goes all in and he pushes forward. Now, you could argue, as he's laying on the raft, having been shot and paralyzed, that there's a moment, but no, this is a man's ego that has brought him to this place. And I love that. I really love. This was a damn fine film. I was really lucky that I got to sit down and watch two wonderful films from the same director-actor team that, as far as I can tell, have never worked together again. Weir would go on to do Dead Poets Society and The Truman Show, but anything else, I don't think I've seen anything else by him. It's very strange. But I think Weir is one of those directors that he's exceptional. And when you see that, you have to acknowledge it, and you have to lean into it. That's the great thing about films, is that you find these things. These two films have been sitting on my shelf for the better part of a decade, and I just never got to them. I don't know why I didn't get to them. I don't have any reason. Sometimes you can't make time for something. But the greatness of the greatness of a podcast like what me and what Mr. Chavez and I do. Grammar, very important. What's great about what we do for all 150 people that listen, pay attention, and love us. To a certain kind of nerd, we are loved. And we give it back. We give it back by getting on the fucking mic every week. What's great about a show like this is that we are forced to dig into the vaults of cinema, and sometimes it's a very likely opening. Harrison Ford, boom, how easy is that? Sometimes you find a movie like EO after watching Ahasa Balthazar. How likely was that to happen? I don't know. But cinema is like a tree. And it has its roots, it has its trunk, and then it has its branches and leaves. And we take from it all the time. And I don't want to stop loving movies. Because every once in a while you get to see something that you weren't prepared for. These two films are not going to change my life. But goddamn, I had a great time watching them. And I had an even better time talking about them on this episode. Hey, I still got it. Whether Mr. Chavez is here or not. And I can't wait to get him. I can't wait for him to get back. Don't get me wrong. I need that motherfucker. I need him here. But with him or without him, I'm talking movies. So, what we want to say before we close out this show, both Ibrahim and I want to give a big thanks to someone who bought 2 coffees for us. Thank you so much for that. And Mr. Jorge Salcedo, who also bought 2 copies, and has said thanks for creating such a fun and informative podcast. The time invested in each film study shows the banter between you is great. Thanks for allowing us to support you in this way. You know what, Jorge? Thank you for going out of your way to support us. Thank you for seeing the relevance of what we do, the importance of what we do, even if it's just talking about movies. To us, that's important, and we're glad that you see it the same way. We appreciate your generosity. We appreciate your kindness. If you're a long-time listener, whether you're donating or not, we appreciate it. If you're a new listener, we appreciate you taking the time, and if you can throw a couple dollars our way, we would appreciate that as well. This has been a wonderful time. I hope you all are well, and I hope you take care of yourselves. Bye-bye now.